Welcome to the College of Complexes. This is our 465th meeting since we started in February 2009. We put a speaker on every week, a different subject. We require a speaker to take a position on an issue or express a point of view. They have to be for or against something. We don't care what it is. We give an hour to make a presentation. If they go over an hour, we cut them off. If anybody interrupts the speaker, remind the interrupter, we'll listen only one fool at a time, one of our rules. Then we have questions and answers from the audience of the speaker, not speeches. Then we have remarks, rebuttals. Everyone in this audience that wants to gets 5 minutes at the podium here to respond to what the speaker said, for or against. And our speaker gets the last word, gets a comment, and a comment closes the meeting. That's how it works. So before we introduce our speaker, we have time for announcements. So anybody have announcements? Now's the time to do it. Any announcements? You got any announcements? You got any? No? Come on up here.
Tell them to go see the Monet exhibit tomorrow.
Go on. Go ahead.
If you're an art lover or a garden lover, be sure to go to Kimball and see the exhibit on late Monet pictures. They're awesome. It's just beautiful, just off this afternoon.
Tom, could you also give a word for people to not talk during the presentation? We've got conversations going on. Okay, can you do that right now, Mike?
Yes, we've had a request not to talk during the demonstration, but what I say is, if you are talking, I'm going to sneak up and say, I'm going to ask a really difficult scientific question from the lecture, and then you're talking for 5 minutes about your sexual life. So, I think that would help.
Well, any more announcements? Anybody have? No, I guess not. Anyway, next week is Dr. John Beasley. He's sitting right here. He'll be our speaker. He's going to talk about greed ruins everything. I'm not going to read all this, but it's on your itinerary. You can read it. And it should be good. He's an excellent speaker. And on July 20th, Jim Gatewood will be here talking about his latest book, Benny Binion, Dallas Gambler and Mob Boss. So he's a history professor in this area. That's in your itinerary. It should be good. On August 3rd, the philosophy of time and their respective perceptions. Patrick McElroy will be here talking about that, and he takes a different view of it, so you might be enjoying it. On August 10th, why Trump must be impeached. That ought to be interesting. Anyway, that's Kenneth Williams. He's a Democratic activist. He'll be here talking about that. So I imagine there'll be some views going kind of on that. Next open date for a speaker is August 17th. If you want to be a speaker, let me know. Anyway, that's it for what's coming up. Tonight we are privileged to have Dr. Daniel Hurley, D.O. He's a author, and we'll discuss how we need to understand the status of brain health as we age. He will show, despite having 2 years of graduate level study in microbiology, a medical degree, and practice in family medicine, his car flew off an elevated highway with devastating consequences. Daniel sustained 4 surgeries, chronic pain, and but worse, a diagnosis of dementia, 92% disabled, both physically and mentally, and going into Alzheimer's disease. He recounts how after his car accident, he survived with severe brain damage, many surgeries, and a service dog. As his body and mind were hijacked for years, he subsequently lost his house, job, wife, and identity. His memory was so affected he could not remember his address without looking at his driver's license. Further, even if just finishing a meal, he would eat another just having forgotten the first. Daniel went on to lose his cerebral cortex, the part of the brain making us human. His behavior became unstable and animal, much of the time. But what Daniel has regained is his unique voice as a scientist and a doctor. Further, he has seen many advancements in his condition after 8 years with a service dog. Daniel concludes that he's having much to say tonight from his perspective about the status of brain health as we age. There's more.
You said you weren't gonna read it.
Oh, I didn't say that. Did I say that?
The other speaker.
I wasn't gonna read all the free, you don't wanna hear all the rest of them, and we wanna hear this one. Anyway, tonight he's gonna talk about how to be the smartest person you can be. As many of you know, and this is I quoted him here, he battled a transition from injury for years. He succeeded where his doctor said there is no recovering from dementia. And although some may disagree, he has become normal from afar, having worked to return to neurotypical, excuse me. In my dozen years of treatment, being in multitudes of brain studies, he has become an expert in the area of brain health and recovery. Today, he'll be reversal his latest research on how to have, he'll reveal all his latest research on how to have the healthiest brain you can have. Brain health is a relatively new field of study, so information is not very available. So please come down and hear mind-shattering information. That was just a marketing term. And meet his service dog, Chewy. All the information is practical, delivered in a way to understand terms, and easy to understand terms. Cover topics include the 4 major needs of health, gray matter, what traditional medicine can offer in anti-aging and cognitive retention, what non-traditional medicine offers neuropathic, osteopathic, I can't pronounce that word. Ayurveda, and traditional Chinese medicine. This is where brain treatments are going. This has got a hint here, electricity. And many of his suggestions can be applied immediately with good results. He also advises that he will be doing his medical stand-up routine as well, so bring rotten fruit. Anyway, I think he's a great guy, and I think he needs a real warm welcome.
Can everybody, I have a really bad voice. Can everybody hear me with this thing here? You can? Okay, good. No? No? Okay.
We can't hear the dog though.
Right. He'll be here.
Chewy twice, please, thank you.
Okay, listen, it's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor, but let me first dedicate this to the homeless people that Tom, could you tell us about your sexual history, please? What were you doing? Okay. Let me dedicate this to the homeless people that are my friends, and I've done lots of them.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yes.
Oh!
Okay. How's this? Is this
There
okay?
you go.
Let's do it. Is this okay?
There you go.
Okay. No? Right here?
Into the mic. Closer. Closer. Here you
Closer?
go.
Closer?
Lick it.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay. This is good. Kelly Woods, my stand-up comedian friend. Listen, so I wanted to dedicate this to the homeless people who I'm their voice. I was homeless for many years. And those people who we call in psychiatry, those people with injuries above the shoulders. So part of what I do is still hear me? Part of what I do is stigmatize psychiatric disorders. When I was younger, I didn't do psychiatry because if you had a psychiatric friend, they pretty much put him in the basement, right? And now we just say, hey, you have a serotonin problem or a dopamine problem, okay? And most people in this room are going to run into some mental problems, aging, whatever. So I wanted to do that, and I wanted to do a shout out to Joe Durkin, who is a great friend of mine. And I wanted to tell you why the hell should you listen to this guy, right? So I don't want to go too many things here, but I also wanted to tell you something besides brain injury. I wanted to tell you about how you should pick your doctor, all right? That's a really good thing to do. Because if I had to make a statement, Tom, I would say I do not like the way medicine treats patients these days. It is a broken system. We all know that.
Yeah.
I read my family medicine magazines, and that's what I did. And the editor says, always leads with, a system's broken, what are we going to do about it? So, the system's broken, what can we do about it? But, I hate this, this is so funny. So, let me tell you what happened to me. So I'm a wounded healer. So that's real important because I had a major head injury from a car accident, 92% disabled. physically and mentally. My doctor, who does nothing but tell people how injured they are, he was crying. I could tell before the interview and during the interview. So that made me bad. So then I went through traditional medicine, got to a certain level, and then that's it. So I had to go seek alternative medicine, meaning your body is not owned by the government or the insurance companies or your doctor. Okay, your doctor's not your father or your mother, right? You gotta get out and think individually. So what I ran into was all these people who were wounded healers. And they had all had a major illness, had decided that the medical system said, we can't do it there, or go home and die, or something. And then they came back. And it was not easy. A lot of my work is still not prescribed. So that's a wounded healer. Wounded healers come back to bring you the elixir. I found the solution to this terrible problem, and what they do is they're not motivated by profit, well, they're profits, okay? But they're not after profits, if you know what I mean, okay? So they're more motivated by bringing the message to people that there's another way to do things. Does that make sense? If you can find a wounded healer, they're great, and there's a bunch of them out there, right? And generally they have books and things like that because they want to, as my illustrious Captain Lee will tell you, they're all heroes on the hero's journey, and they want to bring the elixir back to y'all. So that's an important thing. Be careful with your doctor. If he can have a dialogue with you, no, don't do this. Oh, the red glasses, let's do a couple other rules. Red glasses for my personal opinion, the other glasses for my professional opinion. Okay? Because, you know, some of you may have some visual disorders. So let's talk about my qualifications, because they're going to lead into what you need to know. So I did family practice. Well, first of all, I went to a really good school at the University of Dallas, so I learned how to. All they promised after all the money was you can read and think and write. Those are real important things. Those are important things to keep your mind going. I did a microbiology master's, so I know about, I don't know if you know what microbiology is, but it's bacteria, viruses, and parasites. I still have, well, some of my best friends are parasites. And just to let you know, if I do this, remember I have a TBI now, I'm disabled. If I do this, please at least smile appreciatingly. Or you can laugh, but, so that, okay. The bio is super important. What kills me is I love microbiology, but now we will be treating people. This is this is the kind of thing you want to think about, okay? Your bacteria guts, the bacteria in your guts are super important. So this week I had a woman who has Clostridium difficile infection. It's killing her. And I said, didn't anybody tell you about a fecal transplant? This woman has spent a lot of time in the hospital. She has an overgrowth of the really nasty bacteria. And she said, if I don't get this cured, that's it. I said, well, is nobody teaching you to think out of the box? No. So I said, get a fecal transplant.
You have to describe what that is for some people.
He will.
I think it'd be self-explanatory, but if you insist, I'll get into the...
So Johns Hopkins 3 years ago, I mean, this is what you want to do. Medicine is about, what is medicine about? The standard of care is what? Here's your prescription or your surgery, okay? We're about a little more natural thing. So they simply take someone like this and they get stool from a normal colon and put it in the anus of a person who's sick. And guess what? 36 hours they're cured. So I told this to Yolette, I said, geez, I hope this works, because this is your last shot. And Yolette's a liver and shaker now, so I can't say her last name, but damn it, 2 days later she says, I can't believe it's working. But you see, I mean, that just sort of illustrates, you know, who's going to take care of your bio? Well, it's not your doctor, because there's only one guy in Dallas who's doing this, which I can't believe. I mean, talk about behind the scene. We're really behind here. Okay, which is another topic, but Texas is a little bit behind things. Because the standard of care means I got a prescriber to surgery. It's crazy. But Biome is really important, so we'll be talking about your bacteria, and what else? I went to medical school, what's that MD? Okay, I have a business degree, so let's go to, I talked about okay, so we're gonna talk about, let's take the temperature of the room. Does anybody use supplements?
Oh, yeah.
Good. How about, who filters water? Better. Who does yoga or Tai Chi? Ooh, okay, good. And who uses the internet to get medical information? Okay, so I got something real important about brain health to start here. But the internet does three things in terms of medicine. It scares the hell out of you. It reduces you to fear. This informs you, and then asks you to buy something. Don't do that. If you want to, first thing about brain health, the first thing about thinking is go to the NIH website, National Institute of Health. I don't particularly, sometimes the government does some good things, sometimes they don't, but the NIH is nice, that you get real information, or WebMD. Now what does real information mean? It means a double-blind, placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed journal. They may be hard to read, but that's the real information. But doctors want to know what's really going on, they read those. Okay? And if you have something that you want a doctor to do and they're not doing it for you, show them the white paper and say this, are you behind the times? Did you stop running in med school? Because this is what I think. Okay? And they're going to be scared of you and do what you want. But that's where you need to get your information. That's extremely important. Oh, wait a minute. Change. There we go. Okay, what else? Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple things. So why should I... That's a little Jerry Lewis thing there. Why do you want to trust me academically? Because I've been going to the Center for Brain Health, which is in Dallas, for a long time. In fact, I was in 2 of the research projects. They got 8 white papers out of it, and they showed me how to... They have a SMART program, which they developed with me, and they taught people how to think. So I have a TBI and I have DARS, and they're telling me you have to dress better. Yes, I was 48 with my accident, and I was 5. So I'm 5 years old. And that's the easiest way to say it with TBI. You're 5 years old, so you have to learn how to dress, talk to people, and socially interact. But they had an idea. Let's go from the top down. So I was in their program for a year and a half. Functional MRIs, lots of doctors taking care of me. That's a great center. So I do recommend you go there for either the research trials or the lectures. They have amazing lectures on Friday afternoon with some of the top docs in the world talking about brain health. And I'm always absolutely, it's a stunning facility, and I'm stunned to see that I'm near this guy who's got so many publications. So that's some of my credentials, and I always keep up with that. And I will tell you that what I'm going to say is these first 4 things are just stuff that everybody will say they're simple stuff. Okay? And then we'll get into some more esoteric stuff. Okay? And everybody's about my age, so I'm going to kind of address that. All right. Does this work? Yeah. So let's deal with why we're even talking about this. Okay? This is super important. This blew me away. Okay? So I have a TBI. I am totally gone. I mean, I'm gone. When people tell me the things I did, I can't believe it. Okay? Oh, by the way, everybody can pet my dog. She's more of a celebrity and a writer. So please feel that you get your treatment. Don't feel that because he's a service dog, you have to not pet him.
Chewy. Oh, Dr. Stiff. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was talking about food. All right, so that's one of the first things. Look, I'm not trying to do exaggeration, but let's face it, our food is gone. Right? Roundup just got busted in Europe for a camp. They've been definitively connected, Roundup, on your food to cancer. If you have any stocks, don't buy. This is going to ruin Roundup, okay? There's a lot of bad food out there. And as a food scientist, I mean, I hang out with food scientists. They really modify food like you can't believe it. Your milk, they take the vitamins out, and then they put them back in. You take the damn vitamins out, and you homogenize it, and you put them back in. And that's just the beginning. You gotta, if you can afford organic, who can? I know it's expensive, but try to go there, right? Try to buy at the farmer's market. Okay. So let me give you another big concept too. This is a central concept to brain health and all health, right? And that is, and I have to say, I tend to be cutting edge, and I don't, because, you know, you're not going to hear this from a lot of doctors. You'll hear this from academicians. You go to brain health. But look, for 10,000 generations, we've been doing a certain thing a certain way. For 10,000 generations. And a generation is 20 years. Okay? So our DNA is intelligent, and it sort of, you know, it sort of knows the bacteria. We get along with the bacteria. Bacteria, not we all get along, right? We get along with our fruits. You know, we were cavemen. We eat the occasional meat, we eat seeds, fruits, lots of greens, maybe an egg, right? And suddenly Ford comes along and changes everything by making everything, he takes this sort of holistic approach and kind of like doctors, makes it piecemeal. So all you're going to do, I got a guy from GM I used to work with, all he did was turn a nut on a wheel. So you take this, making a car or something, and make it just this series of individual movements, which is absolutely perverted. It's deviated, right? Nobody does that for 10,000 generations. If you're a tailor, you're on the ground, then you get up and you use a hammer, and then you talk to the customer. Okay, that's how things are supposed to be. When you divide things up, you don't get, that's not what you're supposed to do, right? So when this happened, well, first of all, so now we're sitting down all the time. That's perverted. No one sits. Cavemen don't sit. Okay? If you wanted to just what people did for a long time, that's genetically what we want. Okay? We cannot change. Okay, it'll take us 3,000 years, I guarantee you, for our genetics to catch up on how to eat McDonald's food and not get fat. It will take forever for our genes to figure out what the hell to do with McDonald's, because what is McDonald's? Is it eggs? Is it plants? Is it, no, it's whatever, it's what? 3 things. And yes, we have a morbid obesity problem in this country. What is it? It's fat and sugar and salt. That's what McDonald's is. Our genetics can't happen. So part of this is to go back to what's kind of we've been doing forever. And I'm not talking fashion, no. I'm talking genetics. The DNA tells us what to do, and we have dialogues with the DNA, and the DNA changes, and we change. Okay, so just do what we've been doing for many, many years. So let's go to sleep. Well, no, let's go to food. Sorry, we'll talk about food. Incidentally, we are in an Italian restaurant, and the Mediterranean diet is okay. Sorry, got really cute. We can all, as doctors say, Mediterranean diet works. Okay, that's our sort of go-to. So when I was living in Rome, you got your salad, your pasta with a little food, and you finished up with a blood orange, right? That's sort of natural, right? Okay. So a doctor will always agree that that's a good diet. All right. I like the paleo diet because that's what, and that's kind of popular, not probably with your generation, okay? But if you think about what cave people eat, that's pretty good. Easy to digest. I mean, think about meat. I mean, a little bit of meat, but think about a steak. You know, take a steak, and to dissolve it through your mucosa of the stomach, you have to make it into, you know, juice. If you took a hammer and just pounded the thing, how long would it take for you to pound that into juice? Well, that is work for your body. So a big 12-ounce steak is...
Louder.
Whoa! So a big 12-ounce steak is a lot of work. So a little meat, okay, so I'm making the point for Mediterranean diet and a paleo diet, but I will tell you a vegetarian diet is great. It's very complicated, okay? Approach with caution, because there's B12, there's a lot of problems with those. And I will also say a keto diet, the new diet is a keto diet. And it's a really interesting thing. You basically throw your body into a ketone state, so you have no carbohydrates at all. But ketones, interestingly, are used by the brain. You thought I wouldn't talk about the brain. Okay, ketones, medium chain triglycerides, and sugar are used by the brain. So it works really well. But it might be too complicated, but I'm throwing it out there. But I did mention sugar, and I have to say, you can have all the sugar you want if you can wrestle it away from the bees and the bear. Honey's good, sugar's bad. Sugar is always bad, it'll always be bad. Sugar is bad. It's poison. I don't know if no one ever told you this, but sugar in any form is bad. It's just not in the paleo diet. And I know you think cholesterol is a problem, but the real problem is sugar, but it's not reported that much in doctors' offices. Is that the truth or not? I don't know what doctors are saying these days. But I know now they're stressing glycosylated hemoglobins. Okay, so sugar's bad. By the way, the colored sugars, all bad for you. One's neurotoxic. I wouldn't do it. I talked to a food scientist, bad. Neurotoxic. The least one is the blue one because it's 2 amino acids, so it's somewhat normal, right? One is, can you hear me there? Can you hear me? If I say a cuss word, will you jump out of your chair? Is that, well, okay. We can open up for questions later, but water? God, in med school I went to a lecture on water, I couldn't believe it. We just can't filter. Well, it was the parasites and the virons and things like that, but how are you going to get that out of water? But water is not so good in this country, okay? But what they really have a problem is that everybody's urinating out of their medicines and it's ending up in your water and you can't filter it. It's too hard to filter out the antidepressants and the blood control pills. So this is a big problem. So what are you going to do? I don't advise plastic bottles because when they sit in the sun, first of all, there's a plastic problem. When they sit in the sun, when they sit in the sun, they tend to leach the plastics and they have hormone blockers, right? So make your own mind. But those plastics are sitting in somebody's storage in the sun, right? There you go. A Brita filter might be good. I mean, I don't want to get too complicated because people sell those things, but I use a Brita filter and just hope for the best. But water, and why would you stay hydrated for the brain? Because in the brain there's always complicated molecules falling around and interacting with each other, right? Neurochemical, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, testosterone, but these things need water to function better. If they're in a medium of water, they just act better. They can chemically work better. So yes, people tell you to stay hydrated. Why? So your brain chemicals can work better. And your kidneys can filter better. Okay? So, and I know I'm just covering a few things, so I've only got an hour, but fasting. We'll almost finish with the food thing. Fasting is very important. I fast. Anybody who knows what they're doing fasts. The doctor should be recommending. A fast is a 12-hour fast. So you eat at 7, don't eat till next morning. Food is really hard to digest, takes a lot out of the body. It's good to have, certain processes happen when you're fasting. I don't want to get too technical, but fasting is a good thing. Could I get an amen or something? Amen. Anybody fast? It works for me, good. Round up beans. So in the 5 places in the world where there's octogenarians or centenarians, I think this is an octogenarian center right here, as right with you people, but centenarians, there's 5 places in the world and they all eat beans. So I thought I'd throw it in there for beans, okay? You can use a little squeezy thing that makes you don't fart, you know what I mean? Something like that. But beans are real important, and you bet Mr. Caveman, although he wasn't so good in the cave probably, but he ate a lot of beans. The biome, so let's just talk about this gut business. So, in my opinion, how they'll be treating diabetes is they'll take a sample of your fecal stool and say, you got the profile. Look, you got this, this, and this. Okay, so we're gonna somehow change that, and because those bacteria talk to you, okay, and they affect you, and they make poisons, and they make good stuff, but they make poisons too, and you gotta get rid of them, right? There's speculation that some bacteria make you crave starches because that's what they want. So we might be treating people by changing your biome, your fecal material. So in your fecal material, you gotta decide first, are they floaters? Sorry. Are they floaters or are they sinkers? My Irish mother used to ask me that a lot, which is not a doctor question, but you know, I like to ask them occasionally just to get a rise out of people. So, thank you. Thank you again. But, so, yes, they're going to be treating people by changing your biome. Probably give you another fecal transplant. So, yes, probiotics are really important. And prebiotics are important. Prebiotics are feeding the good bacteria, right? And I won't go too far into that, but it's real important. So where's your, okay, so let's talk about serotonin, for instance. Serotonin is expensive if you're buying it through your antidepressant. I take an antidepressant, and it's about $300 or $400 a month. It makes serotonin. Oh, so I'm paying $300 for my serotonin. So where does serotonin come from? Besides the pharmaceuticals. Where does serotonin come from? That's the happy molecule, if I didn't explain it. Okay, that's a super important molecule. Okay, the more, for men, the more serotonin you have, the more able you are to make decisions as a man. Like masculine decisions, like when the cockeye hits the, that would be a joke if I talked about cockeye because we're talking about it. I think I got that. Okay, so if the cockeye hits the fan, you have to be a man, and you can do that with serotonin. It helps with mood stability. Okay, so 85% of serotonin is made in the gut. I almost said butt, the gut. So that should tell you that you need to do these probiotics. Correct? Any questions so far? I was going to say about sugar, by the way, especially to the men. Sugar glycosylates things, which means it glands onto things, so you don't lose your small vessels. So that's what? There's diabetics have eye problems, okay? Kidneys, big problem with kidneys. And for the men, I can only let you imagine. Small vessel disease for the men. Going once. Going twice. Going three. Here's some other interesting facts about biotics. If you're having children or if you have grandchildren, you know, a vaginal delivery is really important. C-section's not so good. They don't do C-sections in Dublin because bad results. Why don't they do C-sections? Because a vaginal delivery gets bacteria on the baby, and that makes them survive, right? So don't keep, there's a theory that when children are young, if they want to have good brains, good immune systems, expose them to dirt so that they can immunologically get adult-like, can mature. Does that make sense? So, fish is good, everybody knows that, but watch your
Mercury.
watch your mercury, which is in small or large fishes. Small fishes? Or small fishes that are eaten by bigger and bigger fishes and the mercury accumulates? Yeah, so your larger fishes are trouble. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Back there, okay. Food, about the bio, it is called the bio, by the way. I don't even know if this information has hit the general public yet, but fermented food is very good. Sauerkraut, kimchi, pickled stuff, those are live bacteria, as is yogurt, that's all good stuff, right? This is kind of interesting. I went to a coffee shop, I was blown away by this. I went to a coffee shop in Upland or some Mockingbird and something, some hip district down there was there with gray hair, and everybody had long hair, and it wasn't gray, and they were hipsters. And they were drinking coffee. The coffee had butter in it. And it had coconut oil in it. And I said, is this Kerry Gold from Kerry County in my mother's place in Dingle? Because she's got cows there? And it wasn't. It was disappointing. But butter is now on the menu, and it wasn't forever because of cholesterol problem, right? So why is butter on the menu? Butyric acid, which makes you have good bacteria. That feeds specifically good bacteria. So you can eat all the butter you want. She will testify. Oh, this is interesting. Coconut oil. So, you know, I hear these, what I call woo-woo medicine people, and they just, a lot of times they just get me irritated because they just say stuff and you don't know if they're crazy or not, you know what I mean? And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're truly crazy. But, you know, people have been pushing this coconut oil on me, and I was like, now that I know the reason, I'll go for it. I put butter and coconut oil in my coffee because medium chain triglycerides feed the brain. So that's quick brain food. So I have the coffee that got caffeine. By the way, organic is important. Organic coffee won't have mold. Make sure they're watching their mold. For those people who are mold allergic. organic coffee for the caffeine, and then I use stevia, which is a root. Okay, use no sugar, something like that. And then the butter gets my biome for later, and the medium chain triglycerides does fire up the brain. Questions on that? True. Weight. Hey, just a quick weight formula if people want to know. Because I'm always wondering, like, what's the appropriate weight if we're going to talk about the stomach and stuff like that in food? Here's an easy one. Start with a woman who's 5 foot and she should be 105. And then for every inch she is, add 5 pounds. For a man, start at 110 and add 5 pounds. So I feel pretty thin, right? But I'm actually perfect weight. I'm at 168 and 5'11". I'm perfect weight, which seems to be thin. But just thought I'd tell you that's the formula. It seems a little thin to me, but if the thinner you are, the longer, you're going to last long, right? Because I have to say that brain health, and I know they don't know this yet, but brain health is directly related to cardiac health, okay? Brain health, cardiac health, they're the same thing. Why? You get a good heart, you're going to put blood to the brain. Right? That's one of the big reasons. That's called perfusion. You got your weight formula, let's see. Now let's talk about movement. And specifically, I'll just pause on movement of blood. So, I'm an OSO. I didn't answer that man's question back there. He wanted to know why I dressed funny. It's because I had a head injury. But he also wanted to know what a DO was. So I'm an osteopathic physician. I prefer them. He went to school for Worth. It's a great school. My brother went to Harvard. He's Dr. Big Ass. Could you all genuflect or at least hold their hell, just do that because he went to Harvard. He's Dr. Big Ass. We have different ideas, right? I think his group, Skills in Oregon, says, this is mine, I own it, nobody else owns it, the lungs are mine, you can't have it. I don't know anything else about the body, but lungs are mine, I get to charge for it. So osteopathic physicians are family practice doctors. They take a big holistic view towards everything. Multi-pronged approach. We're in Fort Worth, and that's a really good school. We mostly do family practice, and they mostly do, they mostly grab organs. They're all specialists. So we believe motion is life. That's the first thing they teach you. And they give us 2.5 years of osteopathic manipulative therapy, which is the old school exam. Gosh, it's so hard to describe. But before antibiotics, the doctor actually touched you instead of ordering a CT and could actually diagnose you with his hands pretty damn accurately. So this has been my thing all my life. I really like this system. I bought into this system. And in this book here, Chewy's book, I had a patient, shall we say, and just by palpating her head a couple times, I said, oh boy, bad news, your parietal lobe isn't moving, okay? Let me give you background. So the reason motion is life was we have pumps in our body, and we all should be using them. So we have, the lungs are a pump, because when I breathe in, I have negative pressure, positive pressure, that moves fluids. And the body has got to have fluids everywhere, okay? Heart pump, right? The brain's a pump. A lot of people don't know the brain's a pump. It makes cerebral spinal fluid, it goes through the ventricles and out the vertebrae. Did I miss one? Oh, muscles are a pump. When you walk, you push blood and lymph back to the veins and then back to the heart, right? Which is why motion is life. So when we say motion is life, we mean literally motion, like caveman, but we also mean everything in the body moves. Little tubes and cells move, right? There's movement through the vagus nerve is almost 10 feet long, and there's motion right through that. Everything in the body moves. Your kidneys are moving. I want to just say, blood comes someplace to an organ and gets food, and then metabolic waste products are taken away. So the food's delivered and the trash delivered, but you've got to have motion. Any questions about that? Kelly Woods is my partner. We do that. I just tried to throw that out. Kelly Woods is an expert at this. He's much better than me at this. But condition management, therapeutic massage, you can meet him, and he'll show you some of the machines we do for straightening people out. not only brainwased, oh, the girlfriend, sorry, we'll get back to that. So literally, I have my hands on her head and they say your parietal bone isn't moving and it's stuck from inside. I think this is really bad news. What the hell sticks your parietal bone? This is the area we talk and we can talk and hear from. This makes sense to the world to us in terms of speech and auditory. The only thing that pulls the parietal bone from inside is cancer. Unfortunately, I was right. But osteopathic, do a lot of stuff. I was pretty impressed with myself. Okay, so we're on motion is life. Okay, so you get bigger muscles. What do you do with bigger muscles? You move blood better, and you eat sugar. Muscles eat sugar, right? Sugar's poison. You gotta get rid of that. In this crowd, you must know this. You must walk. Okay, you don't have to. You know, when I say movement, I didn't say exercise. Okay, just do something you like. It has to. You gotta move. Okay, racquetball, squash, golf, whatever. But move. I tell people to just walk. Okay, walking is super important. If you don't, in this crowd, if you don't walk, you lose your cerebellum, which mine's long gone. Mini brain back here, and guess what happens? You want to understand where your feet are. So you're going to fall, and you're going to do two things. What happens when you fall? You hit your head, then you get more brain injury like I did, and we all know what happens when the old hip fracture happens. This crowd knows about the hip fracture. Hip fracture. Get a hip fracture, you're going in. Oh, there's a hip fracture back there. Stand up, buddy. You're the winner. Put that crown on. You got a hip fracture there?
You got a hip fracture.
Glad you're alive. Most people get a hip fracture, that's it. They go in, see you later. You're never coming out. You know why you're not coming out? Because what do you do when you get a hip fracture?
Quit moving.
You sit on your ass. You don't move. Movement is life. Anytime the body doesn't move, there's congestion, there's inflammation, there's poisons, stuff don't move, that's dangerous. So edema, for instance, big people's feet that are, all swollen, that's dying. That is dying. That truly is dying. So they're dying. And that's why they don't come back. Okay, let's talk about, officially, by the way, so I'm down at the sleep center, and I meet the most astounding guy. He's got, his latest grant is $30 million from the NIH, which is unbelievable money. They never give that kind of money. This guy is an exercise physiologist, okay? So what they're saying is, his conclusion is, exercise helps you. For $30 million. For $30 million, okay? I just, sometimes the world of academics surprises me, but he did say, officially, it's 150 minutes of exercise a week, and another formula which will be on my website, by the way. Some of the things I'm not telling you will be on the website. That's your hook to go to the website. 220 minus your age is a number. That's the maximum beats per minute. Your heart cannot go faster than that. Then you want to get 70 to 80% of that.
Can you repeat that? 220 minus your age?
220, I'm 100 years old, minus my age. The 220 minus 100 is 120. And then I get 70% of that, or 80% for 150 minutes. So that would be 70. I can do this. It's just what it is. Oh, so that's 14, so that's 94 or something? Correct me if I'm wrong. So you have to get your heartbeat up to 94, right? For 150 minutes. Okay, let me make it easy.
Well, can I go over that though?
You won't, you can, but be careful,
Okay.
okay? Well, yeah, you can go over that. Let me make it easy. When you walk, if you can talk, you're okay. Well, you gotta walk fast enough so you can't sing. So Tom, I just can't get him to do this. He slows down and he sings. So if Tom could walk fast enough not to sing, he'd be walking appropriately. So you can have a conversation, but you can't sing. Sorry, Tom. Sorry, very sorry. For the anybody that points sleepily, sleep hygiene. Okay, so that was that. All right. On the website.
on the website, brainblown.org. Did I say the website? I did. I forgot what I said. Did I say it? Brainblown.org. All this information will be there, including those. In fact, you can look up this. This information will be there exactly over here. Let's talk about sleep. And this is great. Okay, so I have a TV. Well, when I was homeless, nobody could sleep because they didn't know where the hell they were sleeping, right? So 100 years ago, people slept 8. Now they sleep 6.5. Extremely destructive to your brain. Extremely destructive. Okay. Now, the unfortunate thing is, at our age, we don't make a certain molecule that helps us sleep. So you may need some help. So let's roll out the Ambien and the Lunesta. Who takes it? I take it. Who takes it? All right, we got one honest person here. Okay? Okay, so this is going to be, I started researching this and I just had to laugh. So, in my life, because I've been on Ambien, I just want to know in the morning, who the hell ate all my food? Because I just like to, where is that? And why am I 5 pounds heavier? So there is a sleepwalking phenomenon, sleep driving, sleepwalking, and a sleep sex thing, and people don't remember the next day. And why don't they remember? Because Ambien and all those things you're not sleeping. You're sedated. That's what I like going on Ambien. Oh, this is great. 60s. 2 of these babies up. You're basically under anesthesia. You gotta remember that. Okay, why is that important? Well, it's important because you get 8 hours. Why is that important? It's important because in the first 4 hours of sleep, you do metabolic processes. Right? Metabolic processes, I'm telling you. And what are metabolic processes? Getting all the junk. There's a bunch of fatty acids here we don't need. There's a bunch of nucleotides that have leaked out of some cell. Would you clean that up? Okay, so that's important. Here's an interesting thing. What's the last 4 hours of sleep for? What would Freud say about this?
Your brain health?
Cleaning out the brain.
Cleaning out the brain.
It's
Close.
supposed to be your deep sleep.
It's supposed to be your deep sleep. Oh, your beauty sleep. Okay. It doesn't make me any prettier, but... yeah, this is interesting. Freud was wrong. I'm a follower of Freud and Jung, but he was wrong because dreams are for neural pruning. Little things that go around and cut. We're determining what's important and what's not. Okay? So if these information we pick up every day isn't important, we get rid of it. That's called neural pruning. It is essential to brain health. So you got it. So 4 and 4 equals 8, and that's why we should be sleeping 8. It's an incredibly bad thing to not do that. 20 to 30% people have problems, and we'll deal with that in a minute. Loss of sleep is absolutely loss of concentration. You can't do a damn thing. Lose your keys, whatever. Weight gain. So if you're not sleeping where you get your energy, you're tired, you're eating chocolate and sugar because your brain's not working because you're not fully rested, right? So it leads to weight gain. So what's the first thing you do, by the way, for brain health? Get a good sleep, bud. If your prostate's big, if you ladies, your prostate's big, you let it go. You call me. You call me because I want that paper. I want the first woman with a prostate ever seen by me. What you do is you fix it. So, whatever that takes. Okay, but if you're peeing all night, it might be okay if you're peeing once, but 5 times, get your benign prostate fixed. We'll talk about that too. There's medical ways and non-medical ways. If you're in pain, like I am, and you turn over, get that fixed. I turn over and I hit my shoulders, ow, right? That's the first thing to get to sleep. Let's see. Hot flashes. Yeah. Guys, ever slept next to a menopausal woman? It's difficult, it wakes you up. Let's see. Oh, God. So Lunesta and Ambien and all this, just 2 months ago, I have a black box warning about the sleepwalking stuff. Now, a black box warning is serious caca.
okay? You put a big black box in the physician's death reference, that's a noticeable thing. And I'd be careful using it, okay? Sleep is not bad, or I'm sorry, naps are very good if you know how to do it, right? Naps should be like 20 minutes. So luckily, I grew up in the shade of Ellen Watts and the 60 Kids, and so I do transcendental meditation. So mantra meditations work, other kinds of mindful meditations work. I love transcendental meditations. I've been doing it since I was 16 and I've never missed a session. Let's talk about, the other thing I want to talk about. I talked about movement, I talked about sleep, I talked about food. So the other interesting thing about brain stuff, now this is all documented, okay, is you gotta be networking. It's super important. So I had a brain injury, a mood stable, and I'm irritated, and I'm someplace women are talking endlessly about their damn emotions and about these details. I don't know what they're talking about. What are you talking about? You know, that storm that came through? Endless. Everybody's calling each other. How's your trees? How's your leaves? They're talking, botany. And, it used to irritate me. Now I realize, shit, your brain's smart. When you socialize and network, it does great things for the brain. It reduces anxiety, decreases depression, and gives you a sense of safety. So what I notice is women do this very well, men do not.
But if you
Men are the successful suicides, and women are not.
if you have a brain injury, you don't want to do that.
Well, yeah, that's true. And just thank you for that. I'll give you that fiver that we talked about. One of the things that Chewy did for me is he had to socialize me because you would not want to be around me. Nobody wanted to be around me. So I had my cute little dog, and I go to the Starbucks, and all the really smart people say, "How's your dog?" And they say, "Chewy," and then they started talking to him. I started memorizing what they're saying. Loquacious. What's loquacious? I'm talkative. Loquacious, loquacious, loquacious. I get that word, then I get some more, and that's how I got socialized. Because eventually I got the talking thing down, and then I got the dressing thing down, and then, I was on my way, right? So a dog did this, but I also had DARS, the disability people pay $165 for a psychologist to socialize, man. I think the dog did a better job. But I'm just trying to talk about tax. He's very concerned about your tax dollars, Tom is, so I gotta say, Tom, the dog. What else? All right. You guys, please, when you retire, for God's sake, get a job, find a job, volunteer time. You cannot go into isolation. That is absolutely killer. Isolation kills people. How do we know that? Special housing unit. The SHU. Prisoners in isolation go crazy and never come back after a year. I don't care how many, they're gone. They're psychiatrically disturbed. Guys, you have great abilities, and this young generation, emotional hemophiliacs, you need to straighten those guys out. I'm not kidding you. Right? As older men, we have a lot to say to younger men, I can guarantee you. I don't know what happened. I was in labs and research facilities, but I think we have a crisis with our young men in this country. They seem to be a little bit, they need some guidance.
Yeah.
So, guys, step up. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's talk, thank God. Now, let's talk about what traditional medicine has. Thomas, do we have the time? We go on time there, Tom? What do we got? What time is it?
It's 7:25.
Okay.
Carry on.
What traditional medicine has to offer in terms of brain health? Well, this is, I'm not very happy with doctors. I don't like the standard care thing, that makes doctors not able to do what they really think with patients, and that goes heavily for Texas. The physicians in Texas sued the board for interfering because we wanted to do biofeedback, and acupuncture, and some other these things. They said we couldn't, and they beat us. But we can now, but you have to fill out 1 million forms. But at least you can. Texas and Florida are the most backward states. They think they're being conservative. I think they're being bought out. That's what's going on. people can't even imagine not prescribing something. Oh, as evidence as, well, I took this herb, cancer patient, I walk in there with them. Well, I took these herbs, this, that, and everything, and I really feel great. And the doctor will say, well, keep doing what you're doing. But does the doctor ask what they're doing? Why not? Why not? Because they can't prescribe it? Not very happy with that. Okay, so what traditional medicine could do, oh God, thank God. There's actually a fellowship in anti-aging. This is big, okay? So there's a lot of craziness going on in medicine, but there's this boutique practice thing because doctors don't want to be doing what they're told. They hate the insurance company, they hate the system. They're getting out. They're having a boutique practice, which means I'll do whatever you want, you know. You pay me $3,000, your whole family's included. I've only taken 100 families. First of the year, I've already got $300,000, whatever. Okay, and then they still charge you to see you, right? That's a boutique practice. It's totally cash. But I will say, part of it is engendered this thing called anti-aging medicine, which is now a fellowship, okay? Which means, oh, they're legitimate, right? They're not just quackies, right? So you go to med school, and then you do internal medicine, and then you can do a fellowship, right? In anti-aging medicine. So there's some things coming along, and the only thing I can say specifically for this is that would be relevant is probably bioidentical hormones seem to be working really well. No kidding. So my IQ's about 70 after my head injury. 70. 100 is normal. My IQ before the accident was over 140. Let me put it this way. If you have a 140, then you're a genius. You can get into Mensa, which is Latin for table. Well, after the accident, I was in Densa, which means a dense rock. And so it's really frustrating to be, used to be smart, used to be a doctor, and now you're basically, pretty much retarded. You can't, I couldn't match socks for anything, but apparently you see this guy wearing cool socks and different socks, I started that. That was me. I'm sorry. So my doctor says, he's an osteopath, says, I bet you're not making any testosterone because you had brain injury and it's not, pituitary, hypothalamic, thalamic, testes, axis. I come out with no testosterone at all. He gave me this, and 3 days later, I swear, it's one of the days I remember forever in my life. I woke up and I said, I'm a doctor. I can think. It was really amazing. Testifying to the powers of hormones.
What is that?
Oh, it's some kind of brain juice. It's actually testosterone. And I was really shocked because I thought testosterone is to either, have sex or get big. It's for brains. It could, so, and sure enough, I talked to Dr. John Hart, who is top guy in the country, said, oh yeah, testosterone brains, okay? So for men, think about it. For women, bioidentical hormones doesn't mean estrogen. Okay, so they used to say estrogen for menopause, now they say estrogen, testosterone, some progesterone. And people, women, of course you gotta pay, but women feels more like teenagers. I'm not talking about the sex thing, I'm talking about they have more energy. Right? That's what we want. I mean, brain health is energy too, right? You want to feel like you can get through your day without being tired. So that's what they have to offer. They also, so that's important, but they also have, what just kills me is that they're prescribing kind of crazy things like metformin, which is for diabetes.
Yeah.
They're prescribing it for normal people to keep your sugars low. So it's now an anti-aging medicine. So you're going to walk to these doctors, going to charge them $500 and give you cheap medicine that you could get from, buy it on the corner store from any obese person. They do, let's see, teeth. I just have to mention teeth. Teeth are super important. People don't know that teeth are really important. Any infection in the teeth really is a big, big, big stress on the immune system, okay? And that stress is translated to the brain, okay? So I tell people, look, you wake up with 100 units, you got an infection in your teeth, you're gonna lose 25 units. Your immune system has a hard time dealing with all those bacteria, right? So get that fixed, okay? I swish with hydrogen peroxide, I brush 3 times daily, I floss. go to Mexico for the cheap prices. What's happened to dentistry? They wanted to clean my teeth for $1,300 bucks. The hell? Used to be $125 last year. I'm going to Mexico. I'm going to Tijuana, there's plenty of doctors there, right? My dog's teeth, if you have dogs, get their teeth, give them the denture, give them the little denture things, the little things they get their plaque off their teeth. Oh yeah, denti something. That's really important because I noticed my dog acted better when I got rid of all those plaques on his teeth. Those are microbes. Those are hard to deal with. Your immune system is having a hard time dealing with those. Does that make sense? But that's super important. I know it sounds crazy, but it's real important. Non-traditional medicine. Oh, thank God. Well, everybody in my family is in medicine. 2 doctors, 2 nurses, physical therapist, respiratory therapist, a psychologist. We bought into the system. So, what recently I came across is a doctor of naturopath, and I started studying, and I realized in 1910, the AMA decided to get rid of those other people who were selling snake oil. Right, so naturopaths, osteopaths, chiropractors, all gone. Now, there is a traditional herbal doctor in this country that everybody, if you had a grandmother, great-grandmother, that was very big in this country. Herbals were very big in natural things, as they are in China, as they are in India. Okay, the AMA squashed all that, and now we get pills and surgery, 100 years later. They wouldn't prescribe an herb if they had to, except for in Germany. So this is interesting. I guess my point is I feel betrayed. I feel truly betrayed. I like medicine. As a kid, ask your doctor if he had an early childhood disease, because those are the people who do doctors, right? They grow up in medicine and they don't get into the money just because that's what they've always done. But in Germany, where the government pays for things, they've got about 30% of what they prescribe is not a traditional prescription, it's an herb or something of that sort. So you can go to the German pharmacopoeia and find out what they prescribe, okay? But let's get back into some practical stuff. The whole thing of herbals, Ayurvedic, and Chinese medicine is huge, okay? So I can't really talk about that. Go to the website. Did I mention the website? Probably didn't. What is it? Rainblood.org? That's what he tells me it is. Anyway, I can post things on there because, I felt really betrayed, and I realized, oh wow, they just threw all this herbal stuff away, and it's really good. And then I started researching it, and this is incredible. So what the hell is a ashwagandha? Oh my God, it's over here. And I started taking it, and the idea is build the body up before you have problems. Okay? Don't wait for an emergency and then tear the body down with chemotherapy if you have cancer, like my wife does, ex-wife does. Okay? She's got cancer, they're just trying to kill her. Well, they're trying to kill the cancer quicker than her. Does that sound like But, so if you work with an herbalist, he's going to build the body up with, for instance, a ashwagandha and try to recuperate. So it's a whole different philosophy of adaptogens and making the body stronger, making the immune system, just normalizing stuff, okay? The things are normal, they don't get abnormal, and you don't have to pay a lot of money, right? So, let's talk about sleep. I use valerian root if I can. We talked about SAMe. SAMe is an amino acid. Who would think proteins would have? They do. I use holy basil I use an antidepressant. I like to get off it. Use holy basil and it has helped. I've been cutting down on my antidepressant. And we all take melatonin, but does it work? Here's why you want to take melatonin. Not to sleep. You want to take it because there's something called the blood-brain barrier, which doesn't let much in. But melatonin goes in. And melatonin is a great antioxidant. It scavenges free radicals that are destroying things. Does that make sense? Is everybody bored yet? Do I have to take off my clothes or something? What? What's going on? Don't take any clothes off. Quick, they're getting bored. Everybody okay? Everybody? I don't get caffeine for everybody? Okay, so let's talk about, theanine works, this is all being, but I guess my point is there's a lot of things you can take for sleep. I love theanine. If I get stuck without coffee, I take a caffeine pill and theanine, which keeps me calm and doesn't give me the jitters, right? Tryptophan is a perfectly good amino acid. So if you have serotonin here, you have the building blocks here. So you're making a wall, you need cement, you need some building blocks, you need some whatever. Tryptophan makes its way over to serotonin. Serotonin makes you sleep at night. Right? It's also the happy molecule, but at night it makes you sleep. Okay, so take tryptophan. Let's see. Okay, let's talk
What
about.
helped you most when you had your brain injury?
Let me get to that in a second. I'll try to get that in a second. Let me just go through the other stuff and so we can get to Q&A. Ginkgo cola, even my family practice note, that increases blood perfusion by opening up the cerebral arteries. But remember, you got to push blood up here, so get your heart going. Yoga, 95% reduction of pain. I had pain. I had centralization of pain. If you're in pain all the time, your brain says you're in pain, that's the only thing I'm going to concentrate, and then you become psychotic. You literally become crazy because the brain's not functioning, it's all concentrated this, right? So yoga, 95% reduction in pain for those chronic painers out there. Tai Chi is great for this crowd. There's lots of free things. In non-traditional medicine, herbals are thought as food, but let me just tell you, we talk about white papers. Well, St. John's wort for depression, black cohosh for menopause, devil's claws for joint and inflammation, I take it. Saw palmetto for that need to go at night, the benign prostate hypertrophy. Hawthorn for the heart, and horse chestnut for varicose veins. These have white papers. Okay, so they're fully vetted by any doctor. Say, here's the information, make sure I take this. Most of these herbals do not, because what pharmaceutical company is going to spend $200 million to get it to the market, right? And their job is to put people out of business. So, let's talk, then let's conclude with cutting edge brain therapy. Oh, I just wanted to show you, for brain, I have this list. Okay, I got a list on my brain, blow.org, but the list isn't just a casual list. I went and spent lots of money to go to this big conference for this kind of stuff. By the way, this is called functional medicine. It's not called complementary and alternative medicine anymore. Because those are the crazy people. That's yah-yah medicine. We don't like them. It's called functional medicine because it's like medicine that comes right from research. Okay? So I got a list of 10 things, not expensive. The guy who gave me the list is a psychiatrist and he works on reversing dementia. And there's a lot of things you got to do. But he says this is a list of things that the brain needs every day. These are the building blocks of the brain. And then for every one of these, he spent an hour lecturing deep biochemical stuff. And I believed him after that, because the lectures were boring enough to be true. Okay, cod liver oil, lecithin. Magnesium, this is interesting, magnesium has 64 different things it does. These are coenzymes, so they help things happen, okay? And to answer this man's question, cutting edge, okay, we'll get to cutting edge in a second. I have lots of problems with inflammation. I'm called histamine positive person. I inflame a lot because I'm Irish. And I had a hard time, I couldn't even really get out, after my millions of surgeries, I could even have a hard time getting out of the chair because I was so stiff. So, got this guy picked as a hippie type, one of them, their plumbers. So I started to use, that's right, cannabis oil. Thank God. Nature's intent. Okay, so here's the cannabis oil I use. So I do use cannabinoids. Why? And I was super happy to see this come to fruition because they've been doing research on it forever, right? So you smoke pot, not that you ever did, but if you did, you probably get the munchies, meaning there's a cannabinoid receptor for hunger. So wait till they find that out, because they're going to be giving that to, it's going to go well with your cancer patient. But I guess my point is, in the cannabinoid oil, there's 65 different molecules which do different things. one of which is inflammation. So this is CBD oil, is the hemp oil without the THC, but definitely inflammation, gets rid of my inflammation. It does, I don't care about sleeping or pain, but it gets rid of my inflammation, so I really have to use a pain if I don't use this. So here's my market strategy. So everybody says, oh, Paul, I can't do that. This is Texas. They'll shoot me. I'm gonna get stopped by the guys to shoot me. Okay, so someone did actually get caught. A couple in Texas, in Dallas or something like that. Anyway, so grandmother got hauled away because her cannabis oil had 3% THC.
The Texas legislator just voted this week to accept it.
The 3%?
It passed the vote, yes.
Yeah, because that's insane not to. But here's, you know what? You know why? They won't shoot you if you buy your cannabinoid oil at Neiman Marcus. Yeah, they sell it at Neiman Marcus and half for a year. Of course, it's really expensive, but no one's going to shoot you if they have a Neiman Marcus label on it. You know what I mean? Okay. So I love that stuff, and you may want to look at this. I like Zatchral. With the herbals, by the way, you gotta know what you're doing. Okay, you gotta get a company you trust. I wouldn't advise. I like organic farms in America because when they bring it through the border, they irradiate it, and I don't trust Chinese products at all. Right? So I like a couple of these brands I trust because they have organic, 40 acres, South Carolina, and they have, you know, the thing about these people, they're rabid, they're crazy. Well, they're crazy, of course. They're just like cultish, right? So they're fixing their marijuana bushes, and it's like, they're like an ecstasy. They're like, this is the holy bush. So they treat all these herbs like they're holy, which is great because you know you're going to get good product, right? And you also want a third-party lab to test it. So you can't, in the herbal industry, it's free-for-all. Anybody can say anything. All right, so make sure you trust the product. I like New Chapter and GAIA, G-A-I-A, but trust the product. So let's get on to some fun stuff. What made me normal? If I in fact can say that. Okay, so this will be a question here. So in a word, electricity. In 2 words. I luckily hooked up with another TBI who had a neurofeedback equipment company. She flew me all over the country as I worked for her and showed me the alternative medicine doctors, and I was absolutely shocked. I walked into the functional medicine show in one of these big cities, and there was 100 machines I've never seen before. I'm a doctor. I've never seen these machines, and they're for medicine. How could this be? I was absolutely blown away. Okay, so one of them, electricity, I think, is what I'm going to just kind of say. So the future of brains are going to be electricity, right? Can you hear me back there, Rick? Okay, so electricity. So the first thing someone did was had a pulsed electronic magnetic stimulator and fired magnets into my hip. Now my hip was hurting all the time because I had stretched my sacral plexus, and it was lots of times on a visual analog scale of 1 to 10, it was 8. That's a pain all the time. So I couldn't believe it when it took about 2 weeks, but eventually my nerves came back, okay? And the problem is when your nerves aren't working, your hip slumps and crushes the nerves. And so the nerve that was not working came back. It was my hip hiker, gluteus medius, and I was able to stay straight and not crush my nerves. Magnets bring nerves back. So medicine doesn't really do this, but then I found a place called Pulse People, a place that basically sells big magnets, right? And you're lying on a couch, and there's no steel, by the way. They're like specially designed, and they put 2 magnets on you, and they're loud, real loud, like a MRI. And that, I think, brought me back. And this is all off book. I mean, this is all, it's so funny because they have the most outrageous things, like this is for exercise. These magnets are for exercise. And they know damn well you're doing it for your head, right? But they say it's for exercise, or some crazy thing, because it can't be a medical device. But that's what brought me back. Magnets for here, magnets for here, and pulse electronic magnetic fields. That's another thing, and that's more complicated. I don't want to talk about it too much. There's a guy in town who invented one. You can talk to Kelly if you want. But the Tennant Institute came up with something that does that kind of work. It's very small, and it's, I'm amazed. I'm driving, this is pain. So I'm driving 18 hours to one of these conferences. I'm in incredible pain. I took double my dose of narcotics. And Denise, who's I worked for, she whipped out one of those machines, ran it over my sacrum, and the pain completely went away for 36 hours. And it's astonishing to be in so much pain and then not be in pain. It's real strange. So I don't want to go too much in, but healing is voltage, tended biomodulator, you could look at this. Kelly, do we have anything else to say? PMS?
Yes.
You can talk to him afterwards. So what they're doing at the Brain Center, but you gotta hit these guys who are like into this, right? They call themselves medical gearheads. So he started putting electrodes on my head, transcranially, with a 9-volt battery, and said, see how this feels. And sure enough, it was great. And it didn't get higher. For that. No one wants to get higher, but it's for you, buddy. Okay. It actually made me smarter for an hour and a half. I said, wow, what the hell was that? So, just to let you know, guess who was on Channel 4 last Wednesday talking about this? Dr. Krosky from the Center for Brain Health. He's doing the research. But they've had this thing out for about 5 or 6 years. So, direct current with a 9-volt battery across the head. Alternating current helps. Magnets help.
Do not try this at home.
Under a doctor's care, and we'll give you that care in 17 years, because we're behind the curve 17 years. So come back in 17 years. That's true. That's kind of, I got to a point where nothing was worked, the electricity worked, herbs worked. There's a million devices out there that worked. Infrared light worked. What the hell? So infrared light, I had this really weird contraction by this Chinese doctor, and it was infrared light, and I was like, this is $3,000 for what? And it kind of looks ridiculous. That was my main brother. I can't wear this in public. But infrared light dilates vessels, and sure enough.
Speak into the mic, please.
Oh, speak to the mic? Speak to Mike? Mike!
Yes.
Is Mike here? She's telling me to keep it down. The Tennant unit, by the way, is great for diabetics. Here's an interesting study. UT Southwestern is doing this. They're putting on the non-diabetic foot, and the diabetic foot is healing. That's an electric pulsar. It's a light electricity, but back to electricity. So if you put it on your head, it's been very helpful for me. It's really enlightened a lot of my stomach.
No pun intended.
No. There's a unit there called an alpha stimulating unit, goes in the head again, works similar. And we come to the conclusion. So we're going to do questions and answers. Yes?
You said magnetism brought you back. Did it bring you back from the North Pole or from the South Pole?
We got a non-believer here. He's either that or he's some kind of cult guy and wants to talk about the earth tilting on its
If it
surface.
was North Pole magnetism or South Pole
I
magnetism?
don't know.
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
Can I use that for them?
Yeah, sure.
Can you use this one here?
Wow. That guy's thinking. You must have some questions. I do have resources here, PubMed and such, and brainblown.org.
Doctor, I have a quick question.
Yep.
What about a TENS unit?
TENS unit.
Mike,
What about a TENS unit?
Right.
For him, you can actually, those will come out of the, a little bit of leg there. A little bit of leg.
TENS unit. That's a really old technology. It does. Kelly has a lot to say about that. That's an old unit. I don't think that works. It might work temporarily, but it doesn't actually bring out neuropeptides or decrease inflammation. Or some of these new units actually talk to the brain, because the TENS unit is one unit, and you walk into a room and someone smoked a pot. Oh, sorry, sir. And you smell it, and then 5 minutes you don't, right? So that's happens. So people get used to stimulation. So TENS is one
stimulation. This goes up and down and tricks the body into not being used to it. Tension is okay for temporary problems, and it's cheap.
But it's not going to.
Well, you don't put it on your head. It's not for pain. It's for pain. It's for pain. You've been putting that on your head?
No, I say, I wish I could.
Whoa. I wish you could. Because you have
I have a brain disease.
a brain disease. I don't think that'll work. But you talk to that guy.
TINS unit is a modified sound wave. It's a square wave, and it's used to fatigue nerve fibers so they quit reporting pain to the central nervous system. That way the muscle will relax and the pain will go away. The only problem with a class 1 TINS unit, which is a modified sound wave, a square wave, is that it's high voltage, and it will shut down the mitochondria and Krebs cycle at the cellular level. The cells in your body, to protect themselves, will seal off energy. In other words, it'll bring the mitochondria and Krebs cycles ATP exchange from 45 molecules per cell down to 2, which is one of the #1 causes of degeneration in tissues. So the average person that takes a TINS unit, a $50 TINS unit, it's worth $50 now instead of $550, that buys one at a kiosk at a mall and uses it on his shoulder for the next 5 years is going to get a shoulder replacement. Does that make sense? Okay, so nowadays we have something better. That is, it's a sine wave. It's called a class 2 TINS unit. Avazia makes these products. Doc knows about these. It is a sound wave, a real sound wave. That's a circular wave. This increases the mitochondria and Krebs cycle, in some cases doubling tissue regeneration, increasing perfusion, and this is what heals the body. So nowadays we're moving into a class 2 TINS unit, and they're now starting out at about $2,500 for something like that, but the prices are going to go down as these patents wear off. Does that make sense?
I should throw mine out.
Well, I wouldn't say I'd throw it out. I would save it for emergency purposes. If you're having a muscle spasm and you're on the way to your graduation and you got to stand for 5 hours or sit for 5 hours, that's what a TINS unit's for. But it's not to use every night on your way to bed. Fair enough?
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Let me explain. I almost didn't want to get into this, but if you can, the mitochondria in the cells are the energy powerhouses of the cells, right? So if you can give them electrons, they restore themselves, and then they can, because they're energized, then they can make the cell work, okay? So part of the idea is to energize the body with energy, so you have extra electrons, stronger cells. So if a cell has got good mitochondria, it's not going to do anything like become cancer. It's going to function normally, right? So that's kind of the idea. The whole body is losing electricity, and so the Chinese will talk about the body's losing qi, which is energy, but that always confused me. But now I take it as a Western person, you're literally losing electrons, because energy in the way we're talking about is from that source of electrons, and you can literally give electrons to the body so that it is, energized. And the body is a big bag of chemicals, and you have electrons, and you have electricity and charges with different molecules. So we're really talking about re-energizing the body, which is actually a Chinese idea, to re-energize the body instead of, drugs are one molecule, but herbs, for instance, are many molecules, and they work synergistically. And this is important, because one molecule may not do the job, right? I mean, when you smoke pot, it does so many different things. It stops inflammation. It actually can make older people smarter. I mean, there's brands that makes people smarter, by the way. And then, so it does multiple things. But I notice in my patients, when they stop smoking pot, they can't play their guitar anymore. I said, oh, yeah, of course. Because they're inflamed. Their hands are killing them. Because the cannabinoid oil is an extraction from the hemp plant, right? And they were using, this before it became
legal.
Yeah, but it's, I don't know why the government keeps us from this. They should have let research, they should have at least let research being done on pot a long time ago. And they're just starting to say, okay, let's start studying psilocybin and LSD, microdosing cancer patients, which has turned out great for
really an antidepressant for the cancer patients. And what about vitamin K, street drug? Great antidepressant. Ketamine used to be a street drug, great antidepressant. One shot of that stuff and you're fixed.
Oh, as far as pain, cold laser therapy,
You got something to say about that?
Who, me?
Yeah, cold laser therapy?
It works, reduces inflammation with light at a pulse, okay?
Cold laser therapy can reduce inflammation with light. It's a light source that reduces inflammation. Just like the sun has a certain bandwidth of light that will heal the body or burn you, lasers can do the same thing. So it can be used for at a pulse to overstimulate an adipocyte and are used for causing the adipocyte to explode, which you find very popular in med spas for taking off love handles temporarily, or it can be used for healing as well. So yes, they work. A lot of times it's called red light therapy, but it's the same thing. Laser means light, amplification, stimulation, radiation, emission. That's what laser means.
Oh, we got a question.
David, I am one of the many, many people who have a bad sleep cycle. And I had a problem with my back and it kept me up and it woke me up during the night. And so, what can I do to get my sleep cycle back?
Cure the problem of your back problem.
That's pretty much cured.
Oh, it is. But your cycles are off.
Yeah.
Get a dog. No, I'm sort of kidding, but my dog got me up in the morning and I had a sleep cycle problem. But you're probably going to have to use some herbs and melatonin and valerian and regulate that cycle again. That's kind of a complicated question. There's cognitive behavioral therapy was the #1 thing traditional medicine has to offer for that. And that's kind of I don't have a simple answer for that, but cognitive, that's what a traditional doctor would give you. But I would say use that plus some herbs, and that's complicated.
The first thing, cognitive therapy?
Cognitive behavioral therapy, that's what they're going to for sleep. So if you're a doctor, traditional medicine, they would prescribe a cognitive behavioral therapist who, this is kind of interesting, cognitive behavioral therapist, in a word, is Zen philosophy. It's the same stuff I used to study. I used to be Alan Watts' nephew's good friend. But it's kind of Zenish that you keep conscious of what you're doing all the time. And you keep the bad thoughts away, and you just keep real conscious. It's a little complicated, but cognitive behavioral therapy has become one of those therapies that insurance pays for because it works. It's a little complicated to explain.
Okay,
But we could talk.
we'll talk.
Surely there must be other questions.
Doc, can you explain what a double-blind placebo study means?
Yeah, so if you go to NIH studies, listen, you can't trust, like it's all marketing. If I have a medicine and so I'm the doctor or the patient and then the person who gives the patient the medications and the doctor, okay? Well, none of those people know what the medicines are. Nobody knows what they're giving, okay? So no one can cheat. Does that make sense? So if you know that you're getting the real stuff, then then you might be affected by that, okay? You might report positive things. Because, and if you don't know, then you can't have a placebo effect. You gotta get rid of the placebo effect. I'm taking a pill, I should get better. So there's a lot of reasons people cheat, but nobody knows where the medication is, even the doctor doing the study. Because that's in a code that you gotta call the pharmacy, and nobody does that until the study's over, right? It's all encoded. And then when they randomize people, so you can't tell who's gonna get what. It's all computer randomized. Placebo controlled, they account for that. I'm giving you the red pill, they account for all that. Because if I give you a pill and tell you it's gonna work, you will get an effect, right? Peer reviewed, so after they do the studies, they have statisticians and important people look at this and say this is a false study because there wasn't enough people in it or something. Something is not kosher, if I may say that.
One more question about that. So would it be safe to say that some of these people in this double-blind placebo study are not actually getting medication, they're getting
Oh, no.
a sugar pill.
Right, yeah. Yeah, half of the people are getting sugar pills. And that's what you compare. So that's the placebo group, and this group actually got something. And then you want to make sure
And how,
consistently people got.
and how much science has been dedicated to those who have taken the sugar pill but heal spontaneously?
I don't know. Well, you can see that there's a radical among us here. What the hell's going on here? What the hell? Political motivation, my friend, that's what I see here. You're a Democrat or something like that, bleeding heart, I don't know.
Pharmaceutical companies are not gonna research that.
Oh, there we go. She just answered my question.
They're in it for the money. Yes. Oh, he's got.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, wait a second, this poor woman over here.
Sorry, I was gonna
Yeah,
answer
no,
his question.
what is it?
Okay, you talked about getting 8 hours sleep a night, and also about meditation. So I guess I am confused or would like more information about, is meditation counted as sleep if you're talking about how many hours you have?
Nope.
It's in addition to.
There's lots of type of meditations. Most meditations, you are awake.
Right.
It's a mantra meditation, you're concentrating on the mantra, so you're awake, so you can say mantra.
You're awake, but
Or
your
there's-
level's a little different than if you're.
There are, yeah, so neurofeedback, I didn't even talk about neurofeedback tonight. Oh my God. I had 100 sessions. Usually 20 words. I was not good. 20, I had to have 100 sessions of neurofeedback. Neurofeedback helps. And it changes the brain. In trains, it's like exercise for the brain. Like I'm making too much theta, so I'm a really nervous wreck. And it says you really want to be, you want to be in, I don't know, a theta state or something like that. Okay, that's your ideal state when you're resting. And so it literally trains you to have normal brain waves. When you're sleeping, it's delta. When you're when you're in an excited state, it's gamma. There's a bunch of states that you want to get in. But I forgot to even mention that. It wasn't enough time. But that's one way to train yourself. But no, meditation is not sleep. No, meditation is not sleep.
I know it's not.
It's not included in sleep.
It's not included.
No, because meditations, there's a conscious awareness going on. You're not in delta. In meditation, you're not in delta wavelength, and that's the answer. You're sleeping if you're in delta. If you're not in delta, you're not sleeping. And in meditation, you're in something else like gamma, right? You're not in the delta state.
What if you lived your whole life never getting more than 6 hours sleep? How do you make
That might be normal for you.
Maybe it is, because that's what I've done all
Yeah, well, people are different. But in general, people need 8 hours, but people are different. Like when you prescribe antihistamines, they don't work. The reason there's 30 antihistamines, because there's 30 different responses. Right? Pain medications, that's why there's so many, because it works for you, it doesn't work for him, because people are different. If 6 hours feels good, then I wouldn't worry about it. People are
Yes,
different.
did I hear you say that 9 hours was bad for you, 9 hours sleep?
Well, I had to research this because as a TBI person, I was sleeping 17 hours and awake 8, which is exactly the opposite of what you should be doing, right? So I was like, wow, that's not right. So yes, I had to figure out that it was because my brain was growing so quickly, I was like a neonate. And once I figured that out, I was happy, but yes, the longer sleep, that is associated with more problems. Like that could be the side effect of dementia or stroke or something like that. So more sleep is generally frowned upon. It's associated with. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, another question is, you waved around a lot of these herbal and other compounds and stuff like that. Is not there a danger that there's going to be an interaction between all these things?
Of course. And this is our commercial says, listen, none of this is medical information, and you should go talk to your attorney and your doctor and your attorney's doctor, and don't do anything with your attorney and your doctor talking, then it's okay. So, yes, everybody says, yeah, go, all these herbs say, don't do this unless you have the advice of your doctor. But if you look at the research, and that's true, especially if you're taking chemotherapy, that's right, okay? And one of the things that might come up is, washington may thin your blood, and the medications you're taking may thin your blood, and that's a real problem, because you're shaving one day and you're gonna be dead, because there's blood all over the place, and because you can't clot your, this is terrible, I've seen it before, it's terrible, terrible, it's bad news. So yeah, you wanna make sure, but the problem is what? Will your doctor know? And if he doesn't know, will he be honest with you? Will he say, well, I don't know? Or, because that's, now, a lot of cancer doctors absolutely know herbals, because everybody's saying, because about 40% of the country uses herbals. And the doctors are smart enough, hopefully, especially in the end game, like oncology, they say, I know you're using something because everybody is. What are you using that I didn't prescribe? And they hopefully have read the papers on it. You hope. And if you get a doctor that doesn't know that stuff, get rid of them. You gotta have a competent doctor. This really irritates me. They're not God anymore, okay? You need answers, you pay them. Get them to explain things to you. And if they don't know, go to someone who does. You want a dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, basically, how, another question I have is, can you really trust a doctor, a for-profit doctor these days?
Most of them try. I mean, most of them aren't totally stupid.
It's not about being stupid.
Yes, it is. You think none of them are informed about the other medicine? Only you?
Well,
That's ridiculous.
We all started out as good people who wanted to do good things, and we all wanted to, half our pay was money and half our pay was satisfaction of helping people. But the system is pretty damn oppressive. If you don't do what you're told to do in Texas, they're going to kick your ass right out of the system. They do it all the time.
Texas Medical Board.
Nobody in this state who practices forward medicine is around anymore. They've left the state or they don't practice. That's the way it is. You're looking at a corporate organization kind of thing, and they keep you in line. Standard of practice. So I don't know what to say to that. You're going to have to make your individual. You're going to have to make your individual judgments. I don't know. I can tell you, family practice doctors never made any money, didn't get into the money. If you do family practice, it's really hard to do because you got to know all these diseases, and you don't make any money. But if you go into a surgeon and he makes $180,000 for a surgery, they'll probably promote that surgery. What can I say?
You see, this is a fundamental flaw in this so-called free market system.
Damn socialist right there from England. Right there. Social medicine, it's what? Two of them in the room here. Go ahead, he's gonna, I would agree, but go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, look, in any transaction, there should be equal knowledge on both sides. Well, how on earth can a person who's ill-informed about, how on earth, should there not be some ombudsman that you can go to and say, look, is this person being honest with me? Am I really understanding what's going on here? Because from what I've seen, I have to always think to myself, is this guy honest or not? How on earth can I know? Because I'm not,
I want to all join you in giving that man a golf clap. It's a small clap. It's a golf clap. That's well said. I've thought of that a million times. What can I say? You can hire patient advocates. There are patient advocates that help you get through the insurance dilemma. It's a real labyrinth. It's a medieval system. Wow, it's complicated. So I don't know, there are patient advocates. Maybe I can go to your family practice doctor that you trust and say, hey, look, let me be honest. I got a surgeon recommending a $28,000 surgery. I don't know if it's really going to stack up. Could you look at the MRIs and give me some ballpark? I know, I completely agree with you. I've been a patient.
But they won't tell them each other, that's the thing.
So, I'm going to take some herbals. I'm getting excited and too loud for the restaurant.
Well, I can quiet you down here because I'm going to ask you a question about standard of care. And my background on that is that I've actually been down there with the Texas legislature discussing these things. And a physician can receive a complaint from the Texas Medical Board if he or she simply prescribes a higher dose of vitamin C than the standard of care recommends. Can you elaborate on that any?
I'd say throw all those people who are crazy and giving stuff that probably gonna help people, throw them the hell out of here. Just throw them out.
But,
No, I have everybody, you just can't do anything unusual in Texas, period. Or Florida, period. Period. My attorney sits on the board and says, no nonsense, nothing unusual, no herbs, no acupuncture, no infusions of vitamin C, none of that. You want to do that? Great. Colorado, Oklahoma, California. California has an interesting rule where it has sort of an access to healthcare. So what you do is, anybody can do anything, but they have to tell you their credentials. So a massage therapist could do acupuncture if they tell you their credentials. But this is you could call it conservative, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's, what can you say?
Do you not recommend various books? I know when my children were young, I used Adele Davis. Her information is quite valuable.
Oh, God. Well, ultimately go to the NIH websites because you want to read what doctors read. Yes, it's a little difficult, okay? Examine.com, and that's on the website as one of the resources. Examine.com, because they will tell you, it's a third party telling you about anything. That's where I learned Tylenol was a real killed livers a lot. Shoot. What else was I going to say? That's right. I wish I had more things to say. I like, in terms of, it depends on what disease you're treating, but I go to these big conferences, you pay a lot of money, and you're seeing the best of the best. Like a psychiatrist who has been working on dementia, and 20 years ago he found out how to cure it, but it's complicated. There's 5 different things you have. Osteopaths are a multi-pronged approach. I'm going to approach this problem I'm going to approach this problem socially, psychologically, physically, medically, spiritually, emotionally. Multiple approaches to disease is very good. Okay? It's just too damn complicated, right? And so if you're treating Alzheimer's, get the guy, who's selling that book, No More Alzheimer's. I thought the guy was amazing. And he's legitimate. His research is incredible. And so it depends on what you're trying to treat. But I would go to a wounded healer who's written a book and actually had the disease. That's a good place to start. It depends, fibromyalgia, it depends on what you're looking at. Alzheimer's, fibromyalgia, TBI. I should write a book about TBI. Wait a minute, I already have. I haven't said that, have I? Oh my God. How could I let you poor people, how could I disappoint so much? Normal from afar. Just finish it. We're in the editing. Oh my God, my editor's gone. We're in the editing stage. Normal from afar. That would be me with the TBI.
Doc, you mentioned Tylenol. What is the active ingredient in Tylenol that's killing the liver, and is it in other products as well?
Oh, well, do me a favor, don't take Tylenol. Do not take Tylenol to sleep, like at 7 p.m. or something like that. I mean, people do this over and over again, it makes them pretty sick. Tylenol is, what's killing, our opioid problem? Did everybody know the opioid? Okay, what's the big problem with the opioids? What's in opioids?
Besides addiction?
No, hydrocodone plus acetaminophen. It all has Tylenol. The problem with narcotics is they have Tylenol in them. So the problem with, when you're trying to get high, you eat 5 of these things and you blew out your liver. That's the problem.
Wow.
That you have to have a liver transplant. That's the real problem that people don't address. Or, 60,000 people overdosing or whatever it is, okay? But the big problem, in my opinion, is, dude, your liver enzymes are so high. You've got to stop using these drugs, not because you're getting high, because your liver's blown.
And you continue this, you're gonna get a liver transplant, and you're not going to get one because there's not a lot there. But Tylenol, I assure you, would not be able to pass inspection today because it is pretty darn dangerous with the liver. So I see people taking Excedrin PMs, which has Tylenol, but it also has Benadryl. Both of those things are not indicated for sleep, and Benadryl is associated with dementia, cognitive impairment. And it's in everything, right? But it'll say Benadryl, or no, it'll say acetaminophen or diphenhydramine. So you gotta know your chemical names too, a little bit, of the common ones.
Hello. You keep mentioning TBI, which excuse my ignorance. Could you, what is that? How do you define
You
it?
see what social medicine brings us? The only redeeming factor of this guy is grandmother's from Cork City, for God's sake, and that's an Irish person masquerading as an English person. So really, you're good people.
Successfully.
Successfully. Tiki's Irish. Well, it's really Irish. And so, what the hell was the question? Sorry. I don't remember.
So please define.
Oh, traumatic, I'm sorry, I'm lapsing in medical terms. Traumatic brain injury. So I had a car accident. The car really just crushed me into it. And a traumatic brain injury is like a stroke. It's nice, it's a nice disease to have, by the way, because it's politically correct. It's not like I have HIV, which is not politically correct, if you know what I mean. So it's like I'm crazy, but it wasn't my fault. It was the other driver. So it's a nice thing to have, but I lost a lot of my brain. So I lost my frontal cortex, so I lost my executive decision making, which is the reason I used to yell at cops. Not a good idea.
Did they?
It's okay to yell at cops, I'm not saying that. Come on, you can yell all you want. But just don't, don't yell at two of them at night near an alley. I'm just saying. She's done that. She did that. She has a TBI.
No, I don't. I was really pissed.
I thought it meant totally buggered up.
Totally buggered up. That would apply as well.
I think we're out of questions.
Sad. You people need some medicines to invigorate your brain to ask more questions. Well, listen, it's been an honor. I really appreciate your attention. I really do. Thank you.
Now it's your turn to talk, so anybody who wants to come up here and respond to what the speaker had to say, either for or against, be my guest.
Okay, when everyone quits talking, I might have a comment.
Go for it.
We have, I don't know, how many side conversations going on?
Just talk. Just talk.
Just talk through the thing, but see, I have my TBI too, so I mean, I'm trying to overcome all the distraction. Actually, I was in a very severe motorcycle accident, and I did have a traumatic brain injury, and demonstrated loss of feeling, hemiplegic loss of feeling, and I had one eye focusing slower than the other. But I really didn't even notice. Really didn't notice much for quite a while. Until I got poisoned with fluoride, and when I was poisoned with fluoride, that took my IQ immediately down to about 80 IQ. And I had to struggle back from that. I had to go through detox and so forth. Do I have a question? Somebody said question?
This is not a question.
Yeah, this is not a question, period. This is, everybody gets 5 minutes remarks. So anyway, some of the area the doc is covering here is definitely area I've traveled or had some experience with. One of the great therapies that I have employed is actually taking back up a musical instrument. and working with that. But the downside to having this type of injury is, at least in my case, I am sensitive to a lot of electromagnetic fields. I am very chemically sensitive. And it's just like when someone near me is using a cell phone and I'm finding all of a sudden I feel about 20 IQ dumber, and then I look around and I find someone's got their cell phone within about 3-4 feet of me. I'm being zapped by the field, and it's not bothering them at all, but it's really affecting me. So I don't know what that means, whether I have a tenuous hold on sanity or what. I mean, what can we say? But so anyway, those are my comments on the dog's lecture. But I never got his attention because he's in the back conversation back there. So maybe someone else will be more fortunate.
Well, I wasn't going to speak, but I hope that I can have the speaker's attention because this is aimed at you. I'm an MD, and I want to defend traditional medicine a little bit. You know, doctors don't know everything. MDs don't, DOs don't, chiropractors, whatever. But our practice is based upon the best evidence, evidence-based medicine. You can't take somebody says so-and-so, it worked for me, or there was a paper that had 5 patients in it or something like that. If something works and it can be repeated and there is evidence for it in many cases, in many centers all over the world, then there's evidence that it is a useful and important treatment, okay? But you can't just take somebody's word for it. All right, we are learning more about other types of medicine, traditional medicine, Chinese medicine, for example. Herbs we're finding out more about from things that are discovered in the Amazon, for example. But those have to be tested, okay? The FDA approves medicines that work. Medicines that have no value, it's not going to be FDA approved. They're not going to be disproved. They're just going to not be approved because they have no value, okay? There are a lot of things like you see advertised, what is the Prevagen or whatever.
Provigil?
Yeah.
Provigil?
That doesn't work at all. Jellyfish stuff, no. But it sure does sell because they advertise it. So again, evidence-based medicine, okay? If it's been double-blinded, okay, the thing about the double-blind and the placebo and whatever, let me explain. You have a disease that you're treating. You have a new drug that you want to test for this disease. Okay, so it's come out. First, the drug company develops it, then it goes through, its laboratory tests, then it goes into clinical testing. They send it out to various testing doctors that are, set aside for this in medical centers, etc., and say, okay, this is a drug for this type of cancer, let's say. We're going to try it. We're going to go to MD Anderson. MD Anderson's going to try it. All right, so they've got 100 cancer patients lined up of this type of cancer for this type of drug or this type of immunotherapy or whatever. Now, blinded means that the patients don't know what they're getting. Double-blinded means the doctors don't know what they're giving. Okay, so it's blinded on both sides. Now, if the patients have cancer, they're not gonna give half of them sugar pills, because that would be killing them, right? That would be unethical. So they give half of them the best treatment that there is available so far, and the other half get the new drug, okay? So that's ethical. You see what I mean? See the difference? So just be careful. You don't take this herb or that machine. I mean, there are people out there selling stuff ever since there was snake oil. And you know, that was forever, okay? There was always been, I mean, even the Egyptians had hippopotamus urine or whatever to grow hair. I mean, it's been forever. So it's got to be evidence-based medicine. That's it.
It was crocodile.
I'd like to get
Well, you know, actually, I will speak up for my experience, okay? So when I was about 5 years old, my uncle came back from Malta. He was during the war, during the siege of Malta. And so I contracted scabies from him. Now, in those days, we didn't have social activities. And so we lived in a little hamlet in Oxfordshire, because when the V2s and V1 missiles were hitting London, it was a pretty good place to get out of. So we went to Oxfordshire in the middle of nowhere. So we lived in this little hamlet, and the doctor came out from Chipping Norton, the next nearest town, and charged about £1 a visit, which was about 1/3 of a normal week's salary in those days. And so, so I remember they used to put it on my skin, and it would burn. Anyway, so about 9 months or so later, my uncle came back again. And he went stark raving mad because he knew the soldiers were getting penicillin ointment, which fixed it right away. So what this doctor was doing was just fleecing, milking my mother. And so I always, from that experience, because I lost weight and so on, I remember it quite well. I was bedridden and so on. So yes, there's a great deal of unethical behavior in the medical profession, from what I could see. Even today, this is why I look at doctors and think, you know, are these people honest? And so anyway, so in 1945, National Health Service came in. Now the benefit of it is, there is, you know, they're well paid actually, doctors are well paid. Also, the effectiveness of drugs are tracked, because they measure the effect across the whole population. And of course, the NHS is probably the biggest buyer of drugs in the world. So you actually, the drugs you do get, you know, the effect of them is well tracked and well known. So generally speaking, you know, the treatment you get is really, very good. Now, my other experience is recently with my wife. Because she got ill, I called up Imperial College, my college in London, which has a medical faculty, and said, what would you do? And they said, well, you'd have a date scan, blah, blah, blah. Well, here this was refused. Well, she'd had one scan, but it turns out that scan is very indicative of the problem she had. And so, but you see, you know, here you are, you know, you're not an expert. So, and also what I also discovered, you have 4 gatekeepers on treatment. The first one is the pharmacy that says, well, we didn't give you this because we knew it wouldn't be paid for. Secondly is WellMed, who also looks over the thing. The third one is like United Healthcare and so on. So there are about 3 or 4 gatekeepers to stop you getting, the treatment you should be getting. And yes, I've heard all blasphemy about terrible socialism. Well, all I can say is social medicine costs under half per person than American medicine. It's probably more effective because it's better controlled, and the drugs you do get are well tested and well known. You know, they don't allow Mickey Mouse drugs that have just been reformulated and probably don't work as well. And of course, Albert's not here, but Albert claims that some of these drugs cure one thing but give you another thing, which wouldn't surprise me in the least. The other thing is, as our friend, Irish friend said, a lot of these pharmaceuticals, the compounds come from China and India. Goodness only knows what's in them. And so we're taking this stuff, we don't know what's in it. There's no National Health Service to track all this stuff, or the European Union, in fact, which is very hot on such things. So Americans are being cheated and ill-medicated half the time. And of course, we're blind. We're not experts. We couldn't possibly be. And there really isn't an ombudsman that you can go for and say, look, is this drug really for me? I mean, how do I know? The other problem is, you know, as our friend up there just said, people are different. So, you know, it's kind of a suck it and seize kind of a thing with some medicines, but it works for some people and not for others. So it really is a complex affair. But you see this, anything I think that has a profit motive, you know, where you do not have an arm's length transaction, which is to say both parties have on either side of the transaction have equal knowledge, which these days doesn't exist in almost anything, which blows the, you know, total notion of a free market and free transactions clean out the window. And so really, until this day, until this country gets, you know, a single payer system, just like the NHS, this sort of rip-offs will go on. And you know, you know, 17% of the GDP or 80% goes to medicine. I mean, and very dubious effects, actually. So, you know, yes, I know, I'm sure doctors try to be ethical on that, but, you know, we know for a fact that, like the opioid, you know, doctors get kickbacks, you know, from big pharma to push some of this stuff. And you say no, well, I don't know. Well, they get something from the salesmen that come around, you know. Well, okay, you say not. You know, when there's money involved, I'm afraid, human nature being what it is, I'm sorry.
You can't get paid, doctors cannot get paid by the
I used to be a pharmaceutical.
This is presentation mode.
Yeah. Well, this is presentation mode. Anyway, so you can come up and remote what I say, but you know, certainly opioids were totally overprescribed. Now, was this just?
I agree there.
Yeah, you know, was it? And what about Shrivkar, I think his name was, who took over an AIDS drug and jacked the price up by 5,000%. You know.
That's because of the law about.
Well, okay. You know, okay. Anyway, my 5 minutes are up, but things go wrong. The system should be improved.
Sir, can I ask you a question?
This is the lecture mode right now, ma'am. Lecture mode.
You can ask me privately.
First time I'm here, I'm sorry.
You can ask me privately, which I welcome you.
You're over here.
I'll have to move this one, I think.
That's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a fascinating subject, isn't it? And of course, anytime I become ill, I start doing research because automatically do not depend on the doctor to find out the reason. I mean, everyone's different and people take different things to cure different things. And when my children were small, somehow, maybe I read it in Adele Davis's book, that liquid vitamin C would break a fever. And I knew I was one of the first people, I think, in Grand Prairie. And then where I was going to church, the minister started getting into health foods and all. And he became very ill, actually. And so he started doing research, of course. But Adele Davis had great information in her book. And what is that clinic? Oh, I'll think of it in a minute. I can't remember. There's a clinic where They start out with carrot juice. You give up all kinds of bad things in your diet. And
Gerson Clinic?
Gerson Clinic, yes, they can cure cancer. They have a place in California and Mexico, I suppose. And also, I started learning about herbs and studied Nature Sunshine. You can go online. They're actually manufactured in this country. And years ago, there was a man traveling that turned out to have, what was it, that horrible thing you get in your lungs. Anyway, supposedly these herbs that they gave him cured him.
Cystic fibrosis?
No. What is it? People have to move to a dry climate.
Oh, histiocytosis, you know, a fungal.
It's some common name, I just, no. But anyway, it's a really degenerative illness, and they cured it with the herbs. I've been to many, many lectures learning about standard process. It's a very expensive, you wouldn't call it a vitamin company. Dirk Pearson may have been instrumental in starting that company. But they have a protocol for every kind of illness. And say you have a heart problem, it would be like a compressed food that you would take, and it would actually heal the heart. And of course, these people were all chemists, very well educated people when I went to these lectures. And I went to many lectures from chiropractors, that one particular Dr. Versendahl, that recommended that you drink pineapple juice every day. It's very, very anti-aging, very, very good for you. The middle part of the pineapple has bromelain, which can get rid of pain in your body, and has no adverse effects at all. And I've read a lot of football players take it. And of course you can't OD on it. I think I've taken 6 at one time, and a car had hit me on Central Expressway, and I had pain in my neck, and it got rid of the pain without taking aspirin or anything else. And it, actually I think it's used to soften meat maybe, but anyway, if you start studying different herbs and different mushrooms, there are a lot of mushrooms that affect the brain. What is it, lion's mane, I think, that actually strengthens the brain. And then with my children having sleep problems, I read about valerian. I don't know if you all have ever read. There's several forms of valerian. It actually strengthens the nervous system. It smells horrible. You have to wash your hand after you touch a little pill. But one night I couldn't sleep, so I took 2, and I still couldn't sleep, so I took 2 more. I still couldn't sleep, so I took 2 more, and I went into this very sound sleep. Woke up feeling great on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. If you start doing research on various herbs and as I say, the Gerson therapy, they have marvelous ideas how to improve your health.
There is no greater incentive to research something and find out what the truth is than having a problem that the medical establishment can't or won't solve. I think our speaker tonight is an example of that. I know people who have vaccine-damaged children, and there are a lot of them, and they're having to do research on their own to find out the kind of therapy that will work for them. And they found, like I think even the speaker mentioned, I don't know if you call it poop therapy or what, but anyway, they derive gut bacteria from fecal matter and then inject it into these children. And one study that was done with this particular method found out that out of, instead of 87% diagnosis of autism, like 13% or whatever it was, anyway, it knocked down the diagnosis, and something like 40% of this sample population that they tested ended up without any autism diagnosis after this kind of therapy. But you're not going to find that therapy in the medical establishment. And you know, there's all kinds of vaccine damage out there, and you're going to hear from the medical establishment, you've got to get a vaccine, you need all that. And there's all kinds of stories, not just individual stories. I mean, you can see example after example after example of children that have been damaged by vaccines and got autism directly from the vaccines immediately after they were vaccinated. and some of them died. But the medical establishment continues to push the whole vaccine thing. There's all kinds of examples, and as far as the opioids thing is concerned, I just did like a 1-minute search and immediately found about 5 stories about doctors getting paid for prescribing opioids. I mean, if you want to know what's going on, go out there and look it up. You can dismiss that if you want, but one of them is a Harvard study, okay? So Harvard did the study, and you can find a lot more of them. I mean, it happens. It's out there. There's a reason a lot of people are overdosing on opioids. And it's not just that they're taking it, they're being overprescribed. And there's some doctors that are getting rich on it. Look it up. I mean, don't believe me, look it up. You know, when you have a problem that the medical establishment can't solve or they tell you don't have, the medical solution is usually cut, poison, or burn. You got a medication, you know, chemotherapy, which is poison, or, you know, or radiation. If you want to be whole, you need to figure it out yourself. You need to figure it out what works for me. Everybody's different. Everybody's metabolism is different, and everybody's different. You got to figure out what works for you, okay? And if you just go to your doctor and let your doctor, I mean, who cares more about you? Does your doctor care more about you than you do?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Well, it may be in some aspects, but your doctor doesn't know you like you do. And, you know, I've decided a number of years ago that I'm done with the medical establishment. Because every time I went to the doctor, he wrote a prescription. Didn't matter what it was for, you know, it didn't matter what I came in for, he wrote a prescription every friggin' time. And it's like, I don't want a prescription. I just want to get better. And a prescription isn't necessarily the best way to do it. So I decided I'm going to do supplements and minerals, and I've solved, you know, every problem I've had with supplements and minerals. You know, I had some issues with heart arrhythmia, discovered that taking magnesium takes care of that. Works really well. Works amazingly well. And then there's other things. You know, you just take supplements, taking vitamin C. It's just awesome. I mean, and I don't get sick. I mean, I had one cold for a week, I guess, about a week ago, because I had a cubicle mate that came in with something he had, whatever it was, and I got it. But that lasted about a week, and I'm done with it. And I stay healthy. You know, I mean, there's basics you got to do. You know, you got to work out, exercise, eat right. You know, don't eat junk. Don't eat high fructose corn syrup and sodas and other crap like that. But just basically common sense, and you can stay pretty healthy. And when the medical establishment, and just as a note here, there's a guy in Houston, Dr. Brzezinski. He developed his own medicine to cure cancer, brain cancer among them. He's tested it. He sells it only in Texas because the FDA gets all over him if he tries to sell it outside of Texas. Okay, and it works. And he's got a whole host of patients that have come to him and been cured of cancer, including brain cancer. But the Texas Medical Board, the establishment, has tried numerous times to shut him down and sue him out of existence.
Is he the alpha particle guy?
The what?
The alpha particle guy?
This is
neoplastins.
Anti-neoplastins.
And yeah, anti-neoplastins is what he's developed. He developed his own medicine.
Has
Okay.
it been approved by the FDA?
Hell no.
No.
They charge him with 100 different charges.
No, the FDA is not about approving medicines for our benefit. The FDA is about protecting the pharmaceutical industry so they can get paid off. Because the FDA is part of a revolving door between the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA and the government. So they just go back and forth and they help each other.
So this guy's selling medicine.
He's selling medicine that cures cancer.
Stop it.
It cures cancer. Look it up. 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 Research it. Okay? There's lots of people that have developed cures for all kinds of diseases, and the FDA shuts them down.
That's true.
They want the money.
Anybody else want to go up there, or I'd like to go twice here for a short thing? Okay, our dear doctor friend left. I'm sorry we went to shouting there, but my story is I do video and I do interviews, and I got an interview from a man who I guess had just received his degree in statistical analysis in the medical field. And so he began working there at the Tulane Medical Lab. And of course they got a lot of government contracts and things like that, and they're getting all kinds of studies coming through there. And he did some workups on some of the studies, and he found out that there were some defects in the studies, and he turned in a report. They brought in some new guy from, I think, Washington. The guy basically said, that's not how we do things here. And the guy set up a board of researchers, cherry pickers, who would go through various studies and cherry pick the results they wanted to find. And he said it was simply a pharmaceutical mill where they were supposedly doing double-blind studies, but the studies were all skewed, they were all cherry-picked, and so they were proving stuff that could have been harmful or you know, not effective at all. But you know, it came in through the whole system, through the FDA system, and you know, went out approved because that's the way we do things here. So I guess what I'm saying is we're in a medical tyranny here. In a purportedly free country, we have more restrictions on our medical choices than in some former communist bloc countries. And Germany is a good example. If you can go to Germany and you can get treatments that are unavailable here, the big question, why? Now, one of the best advances here lately, I have a lot of questions about some of the things that have been done under Trump's presidency, but he did pass a bill, a right to try bill. And if you have been diagnosed terminal and the treatments available to you were not working, you have the option to try basically anything at that point. Now, the real sad thing is that we don't get that choice before like a stage 4 cancer or something like that. So maybe if, it's just like, we have a fight ahead of ourselves, folks. We have a fight for medical freedom in this country. We have a right to be idiots if we want to be. We have a right to try snake oil if we want to. And see, I will tell you, MDs are some of the most programmed people. That man left the meeting because you were contradicting his opinion.
You don't know that.
And
You don't know that.
I don't know that.
Why he left.
I don't know why he left. Well, I know the mood in which he left. I guess I can't judge, so.
I need to leave too, but it's not for that reason.
Right.
Thanks.
But this is what I find. People who are set in their beliefs and in their ways, they will be territorial and they will protect those beliefs and ways by excluding information, truthful or challenging or whatever. So, you know, I may be an idiot looking into alternative medicine. I have an Avasia device. I don't use it enough, probably. But I'm familiar with some of these electrical techniques. So anyway, this has been a wonderful talk by our speaker. I've been amazed by all the information he has shared. And if no one else is going to get up to talk, I guess we can welcome him back.
Oh, there's another person.
Oh, Tom has something to
Do you
say.
wanna say something?
I guess Tom does. I may have walked you too early to start talking.
Well, we all know that dentists advocate fluoride. They have all kinds of fluoride products. And we know with simple examination by looking at a book, that's the most terrible thing you could possibly put in your mouth. And it actually destroys brain cells, it lowers people's IQ. And we're doing it to our children. And dentists get away with it, and they make all kinds of money. So we know there is some dishonesty in medicine.
Amen.
Dishonesty's everywhere.
I guess I'm the last one standing. I want to thank our speaker for doing a great job here tonight. You got us all thinking, you got us all talking, which is important. Myself, I think that as far as what the future holds, I think we need to have a medical system that everybody's involved in, that similar to what they have in Europe. In other words, a single payer system, or we need to go that way. And in the long run, people will, if you notice, even in Germany and other countries, they concentrate a lot on what you would call, I forget the word.
Functional alternative complementary?
No, the medicine for prevention. They concentrate a lot on prevention, which we don't hear. And if you had a single payer system, it would develop into that, because it's more economical, it's better for the country, it's better for the people. And healthcare is a right that we all have, and we should have. It shouldn't be the way it is. Anyway, I'm going to give this back to our speaker.
Well, I really wish that doctor didn't leave, and I don't know what he does, but let me...
He's a dermatologist.
Oh, okay, so that makes sense. So I can't argue with what he says. Yeah, FDA does a good job at doing the stuff, but what I disagree with is his paradigm, right? You see, if you have a certain paradigm, you can't see out of it, okay? And what is he talking about? No, there is 10 here that I read white papers on, and I don't see a lot of doctors prescribing them. It's the paradigm, right?
Right.
The fact of the matter is, medicine is about, traditional medicine in this country is about, come to us, okay, here's health, here's sickness, don't come to us until you're way over here, right? That's it. We have great emergency medicine, but we have nothing for prevention. And you don't pay and how you start this is you get your family practice doctors to pay them more, and to engage them in an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The osteopaths try that. They try that, but that's where the money is. I mean, that's where government should be medically educating people. It's prevention, of course. The whole the whole Ayurvedic thing is absolutely fascinating to me, that they don't fix busted people. They make normal people stronger. And that's just, it's a paradigm, right? I just don't, that's all I have to say. I mean, if you can't think out of the paradigm, you're not going to get this, right? And who's going to change it is the people who aren't thinking out of people. Paradigm, who's that? It's the patients that aren't happy. They're thinking out of the paradigm because they got to. I was thinking out of the paradigm because I got to. And when I was out there meeting all these wounded healers, and they were doctors, whatever, yeah, they said, I'm stuck. What do I do? And they had to go to something that was outside the system. But here's the other deal, okay? And this is important, okay? In family practice magazines, you're not going to see, here's a double-blind research study that has 3,000 people in it. Because this is, family practice is practical. I got a guy coming in, I don't know what the hell to do with him, but I got to get him out of here in 15 and he's got to be fixed, okay? I'm not going to look at a double-blind study on some esoteric medication. A lot of our magazines are, they're less research but more explaining. In other words, we don't want all that. We're really practical people. So we look for practical solutions. So that's why we say to someone,
drink quinine, drink chef's
Mineral water.
mineral water, drink at least one a night. For what? For muscle cramps. They have restless leg, okay? And the quinine, which is a
Tonic water.
right, yeah, the quinine is an anti-malarial, but that's what we say. Is there a study on tonic? No. But we've been doing that forever, right? I mean, I'm either going to give you the antimalarials or just say, you don't like those, they're kind of expensive. Do the tonic water with the quinine. And there's a specific brand that has some 8% quinine, right? But you see how that's a paradigm shift?
Yes.
We got practical stuff. You know, I know from personal experience and from years, you know, that this is a pretty safe drug and it works for me, right? And so there's a whole paradigm that most physicians have, which in my opinion is kind of fear-based.
Yes, definitely.
You know, but you can't blame them in a sense because it took them forever. The first time I got my first job was like 33. What the hell am I doing at 33 getting my first job? That's a long time in school. That's a lot of investment, right? So in a sense you can't blame them, but in a sense you'd like someone to, I don't know, get them to practice less fearful medicine. And I don't think, you know, the boutique system is because, you know why? Sure, doctors want to make money, but it's also like, no, I want to make money, but I want to do what the hell I want to do.
Right.
And if you're paying me cash, we have a lot more freedom to do that. And that's what I see boutique people saying, I can't do this craziness with insurance thing. I mean, I have to hire an employee for $30,000 to $50,000 just to fill out the forms. But the real reason is they want to have a relationship with somebody that they can say, I know you don't like meds, fine with me, why don't you take these? And these ones, and then they give them all the paperwork, look, white papers, whatever. But that's the paradigm they're in. They're in a fairly limiting paradigm. And they're in that for years, and they just, I can't see that I'd be very satisfied. But a dermatologist is a different thing. People come in, they're in and out in a second. You don't even talk to them. I mean, you know, I know a German dermatologist. She sees 120 patients a day.
Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised. Dermatologists, it's a specialty, and you know, they're over here. Someone's already busted, right? What can I say? Paradigm.
Okay.
Hey, it's been an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's fight in further. Let's fight.
Well, that's it for tonight. Hope to see you all next week. Our speaker's here to kick us out of here at 10:30, just so you know.